So this final video is the last portion of Mission 2, Origin of Whales. And in this puzzle tree, you're going to see how small evolutionary modifications led to major changes in the development of modern-day whales. Now, just be careful because starting on this mission, this portion of the mission, this puzzle, they start to get a little bit harder. And you can see there on the left-hand side, they put a little note that says we're adding traits that you may not need in your finished tree. So you will not use all of these over here. So just be careful. And then there's also many, many more organisms that you're dealing with. So this one does get a little more tricky. So I'm going to be continually reading about them and adding things to my tree. Let's start by reading. Okay, the Ambulocetus. It nursed underwater, was carnivorous, meaning it's a carnivore, and it lived in seawater. The blue whale also nurses underwater, eats about 40 million krill per day, so it's also a carnivore. It lives in seawater, and it has tail flukes. Tail fluke is the little tail like that splits into two tails on its back there. That's a tail fluke. And it does not have external hind legs. So it also nurses underwater just like the first one, also lives in seawater and is a carnivore. However, it has tail flukes. The Dorudon nursed underwater, was a carnivore, lived in seawater, and also had tail flukes. Okay, so the blue whale and the Dorudon have tail flukes. Hippo, only thing it has is it nurses underwater. Killer whale, nurses underwater, is a carnivore, lives in seawater, has tail flukes, does not have external hind legs, just like the blue whale. And then the Pakicetus nursed underwater and was a carnivore, and it does not live in seawater. Okay, so the first three that I'm going to start with, just because I need to keep this all organized in my brain, and I can only go portion by portion. The blue whale, the Dorudon, and the killer whale all nursed underwater, were carnivores, lived in seawater, do not have... Oh, nope, I lied. So let's start with the killer whale and the blue whale, because they have everything in common. All the ones I just listed, and including not having external hind legs. So the killer whale and the blue whale need to go together. And that should make sense because those are our two modern day whales. Now I'm going to read about the Dorudon again because it's very similar, but there was one trait it did not have, which is having hind legs, or not having hind legs. And actually you can see in this picture back there, you can see the bones of its hind legs still there. Looks like they're getting really small, but they're still there. So we're going to add it to our tree now, but I'm going to put it separately from the killer whale and the blue whale. Okay. The Ambulocetus nursed underwater, was a carnivore, and lived in seawater. The Pakicetus nursed underwater, was a carnivore, however, it did not live in seawater. So that was the Pakicetus. So Ambulocetus, I'm going to add to these also on its own thing because it didn't have a tail fluke. And then the Pakicetus also is going to go on its own because it didn't live in seawater. And then the last is the hippo, which only had one thing in common, which it nursed underwater, didn't have anything else. So this is going to go on its own branch as well. And that should be our tree. And you can see it's kind of getting a little more complicated. Notice how I kind of worked this way. So you can kind of see it goes in order of the evolutionary trends, whereas as you work right, they start to share more and more traits in common. Now we need to add our traits. So the one thing that they all had in common was underwater nursing. Okay, and again, I'm probably going to have to keep reading about it because I also am forgetting, so don't worry if you have to keep looking back and to read about them. So the Pakicetus also was a carnivore, which is that big group here. All of these guys in here are carnivores. So that should be for them. Okay, then the Ambulocetus, let's see, it's still missing a trait, so let's see. It lived in seawater, so that was the next split. All 4 of these guys lived in seawater. Okay, and then these next 3 had tail flukes. And then only the killer whale and the blue whale didn't have external hind legs. The Durodon, even though it lived in the water and had a tail fluke, still had those bones that were remnants of hind legs. And then you'll notice the only trait we didn't use was the gills. And then the last thing you'll need to do is answer the question, and again, answer the questions for this tree for origin of whales in the assignment, and then you're finished. And you can turn in the assignment when you're completely done.